Welcome back. The conversation continues concerning what the Southern governors raised about the Petroleum Industry Act, the structure of NNPC, and then the big one, the presidency, where who should it go to? They think it should be zoned to the south in the interest of peace, fairness, and equity. And we've got Senator Adeshaya Ogunlewe joining us here this morning, former Minister of Works and a member of the APC. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
Well, if you say for sake of equity, fairness, and justice, how does that sound to you?
It sounds reasonable, but maybe not too practicable.
How?
Because the meeting of minds of all the governors of the South is very difficult because of so many tendencies and so many influence. And you could see one or two of them already thinking not along the line of equity, fairness. They want to protect their own survival.
Is that strange?
It's not strange. So that is politics. So it is not going to be mathematics that what they have said is cast in stone. No. As things goes on, you will see a few of them that will renege and say, no, I cannot go on with it.
So you think that their position is right?
Very right.
But moving forward, you think working it out might be the challenge?
Because I know, yes, if you have your own tactics, I have mine. What is the position of the Northerners or Mr. President? Their view is so important in any election or electoral process. So that's why we are seeing this opposition to transmission of results, electronic means, and which is the best. But will that not affect us?
How is that connected?
You want to win an election. If it is all electronic, you cannot rig, or it's difficult to rig. But if it is by writing, it is difficult you write, that is the result.
Yeah,
that is the difference, particularly in the collation. And the North has an advantage of being so far and distant. Like Yobe, like Borno, like Jigawa. It's so easy to manipulate figures there. Nobody is there to see.
But in terms of voting for that particular provision, I mean, it was put to vote. We saw lawmakers across board, not just lawmakers in the North, vote, overwhelmingly. We had lawmakers in the South as well vote.
They are under influence. They are not independent there. You see, what we see behind in the National Assembly, I've been there before. It's not what is on television. Before they come to the scene to vote, they will not allow them to vote to their conscience. They will be influenced. There are people who are interested in the outcome of anything in Nigeria, and they don't sit down. In the night, in the evening, they go to the houses of members of the National Assembly to talk to them.
Is that lobbying or something?
It's lobbying.
Something else?
It's lobbying.
Is that the right way to lobby then? Is that the right outcome that lobbying should get?
Our own democracy is so young that we cannot determine what an individual would do at the floor of the National Assembly. We cannot. Because you don't know what goes on behind him. And when he comes, you say, was it a mistake? Or he will not come. He will say, I'm attending a committee. Or, oh, I didn't come early. It's all part of the game.
But the Southern governors have to voice that it should be, the presidency should come from the South. Because, I mean, there are lots of people who thought, even without them voicing it, they expected that naturally to happen, haven't seen the trajectory of things. So, did they have to voice it for people to say, well, look, this is a natural way for balance and equity?
But they should start to lobby. It is not by saying, because it is so difficult. This country is not easy to govern. Okay? If you say the South, we are in the South.
Isn't it up to the South? Then decide.
So
it goes to the South.
If you decide that it is Southwest, what will be the position of the Southeast?
The governor just said South first.
Yes.
So if he goes to the South, up to the South.
Fine.
Sort yourselves out.
But we are in the South.
That's the second chapter.
And that is the problem we have.
No, but we haven't gone past the first chapter because people are still arguing, why should they say that in the first place?
I agree that they can say that, but they have to work internally too to actualize it. It's not by saying alone. You now have to go to the Southeast and say, look, where do we put this presidency? If we give it to you, are you able to muster the votes to win the election? Are you going to tell your people to vote one way? If not, if you are influenced and one or two of you, which is happening
but
already. So what is going to happen? The governor of Ebonyi and the one for Imo, they may not go along with the rest.
Is it because they belong to the APC, or what reason do you think they will?
It is not a political matter when election comes. It is your own survival.
Personal interest.
Yes. How do you survive this race? Who can protect me? If I'm defeated, am I not going to go to jail?
Oh. But I thought...
Will BFCC not be after me?
One
Who
of them
can
is
protect
just,
me?
One of them is just on his first leg. Second is on his way out after doing second term.
Yes.
So they still think about who can protect me.
Yes. When I live as governor, I am vulnerable. Where will I be that I'll be protected?
You know, it's quite interesting because,
Yes.
I mean, you have laid this out for the average Nigerian watching. I mean, they see from a particular point of view thinking, okay, well, equity is that it comes to the South. But for you, I mean, looking into the minds of the political actors, you see the different factors that come to play. But in terms of lobbying, which, I mean, you think will be a challenge as well, is it going to be a big issue convincing perhaps the North or other big players that this is what equity is? Is equity different? You know, from the point of view, isn't it generally accepted that this is the equitable way to go?
Look, my own experience and exposure, if you have an idea in Nigeria, you have to lobby the people that have the votes.
Even if it's the right thing?
Yes, but even the right thing. Because their own right, it is not your own right. Your own right is, I'm a Southerner. Their own right is, I'm a Northerner. What is there for us? Okay, let's sit down. If you take the presidency, where would the vice go to? Which ministry are you going to give to us? Because there are certain critical ministries the North cannot joke with, like agriculture. You know, where their survival exists, or like petroleum. That's what they like. So, okay, we'll give it to you. So they need more conversation with the people that matters in the North so that they can be comfortable, that they will not suffer.
So what about the rest of the country? Because nobody is, what's the word now? Because everybody's entitled to the same thing.
Fantastic. But what are you going to offer? What are you going to put on the table during an election? Election is not free. If you don't have about 100 billion naira, how can you be a president of Nigeria?
So you think that if the electronic voting and transmission of results had come through, this conversation would be different?
Yes, totally. Because it now depends on the votes, not on the manipulation. But majority of victory in Nigeria is manipulated.
I'm sure INEC might take exception to that.
I have been part of them. I have voted before. And I know what goes on during the collation. It's not easy. The person who is going to do, what about the professor that was jailed now? What happened? That just even minor. You can be giving a result when you are pronouncing on the television, you change it. It is the panel, the electoral panel, that will determine whether you are right or not, or wrong. But the figures have been pronounced.
At what point do they change these things?
During collation by figure, you just add 0.
Wow.
And it makes a difference. You say, oh, I made a mistake, but I've announced it. No, don't worry. Go to the tribunal. It will be rectified.
I mean, a lot of things to actually string together. But let me just speak first about campaign spending, I believe. You say for someone to be a president in Nigeria, you need to have 100 billion naira.
Yes, minimum.
Don't forget that there's a cap
No,
in
no,
the
no,
laws.
that cap is for the records.
Oh, so there's another one that is out of record.
That is not quantifiable. You give them dresses, you give them rice, you give them gifts. There is no way you are going to campaign and visit a dignitary that will not drop something. That is not a campaign.
And that's not captured, never captured in
No,
it.
it's not quantifiable. It depends on the caliber of the person. But you cannot visit them campaigning without dropping something. You are not campaigning.
So I wonder, I mean, looking at that process, do you think that can ever throw up the right form of leadership? If it's warped at that level, can we ever have the right
It's
kind
the
of
level
leadership?
of our development where you have 100 million Nigerians below poverty. How do they survive? All these other democracies, the people have grown out of what we have now. They have grown out of poverty, out of illiteracy. They can survive without government. But in Nigeria, everybody is still government person.
So that means, as things are presently constituted, elections in this country is not really about the people.
At all.
It's about the elites.
At all.
It's about the elites who manipulate it.
Yes. It is not the figure that you will see during collation. No. They will outsmart you. You know, it is competition. If you are a gentleman and you say, no, don't worry, the right thing will be done, then you are not a politician. They will manipulate it out of it.
Is this at all levels?
At all levels.
Local governments?
Everywhere.
So
You have to be smart.
I mean, is this why they say politics then is a dirty game? Because I've heard people say, well,
It's
we
a
need
smart
technocrats.
person game. It's not dirty. You have to be smart. You have to know how to get your result.
Is that being smart or being...
Yes. Okay. We are competing. I won the election, whether you are popular or not. I will ridicule you. I've defeated you.
No, I'm talking about the process. There's being smart, I mean, street smart. And
Yes.
But manipulation is not being smart.
It's not manipulation. It's being smart.
No, you said manipulation. You've used that several
I said,
times.
look, no. You add 0. You are smart.
And claim to make mistake.
I'm blaming, yes. But it will be rectified by the tribunal.
Yeah, but how so it then suggests as if the tribunals themselves are in on this game.
Of course.
It's supposed to be, an independent arm.
If you are not smart, you cannot win a tribunal. How?
Wow.
How will you win? What people see is not what happens. It is people who have been part of it that can tell you this is the actual way. The more you look, the less you see.
And I think it's quite important, getting these perspectives such that, I mean, people can sit back and say, okay, these are the areas we have issues. These are the things we need to do. I know people see the governors make that pronouncement, especially in the sun, and say, okay, yes, that's the way to go. But when the rubber hits the road, what can the people do? I mean, in this process, you've referenced our poverty levels, but that shouldn't be quite an excuse.
Anything human being is involved is bound to make mistake. That is why we have electronic transmission now. That's why we have the computer now. Because human error cannot survive in modern days.
But the people are not in the National Assembly, sir. I mean, they're out of the National Assembly. Essentially, it's the representatives that are there, and you've said that some of them act under the influence a lot of times. So how can the people outside of the National Assembly make those changes, even though they're not directly inside the National Assembly?
It is to recall or threaten to recall their representative.
Does that really happen?
Be on their neck and tell them, this is what we want. Don't vote against this. If you do so, these are the consequences. Maybe things can change. But they will not even come home during that period. You have to contact them by phone, and their phone will be switched off. We are very busy until the outcome of the result.
So when they tell us that this is how my constituency wanted us to vote, or that there is no connection to my constituency, those are all facade.
Of course. They are being influenced. Where do you think technology cannot? No, I was in Harvard, and there's a room in Harvard. My bedroom was shown on television as far as Harvard University. So technology has gone too far to say my village. Where is my village? When America can come to Nigeria, to the border between Nigeria and to take away their They are citizens.
Is it inside your bedroom that was shown, or the window of your bedroom?
The bedroom.
Inside your bedroom?
Yes.
Do you have cameras in your bedroom?
I don't know how they did it.
Okay, that's another conversation.
No, their level of technology. As we are talking now, you think they are not looking at us?
Well, on TV, on DSTV,
Yeah.
and YouTube.
No. They have their own.
Interesting.
They have their own. They are about 20 years ahead of all of us. This telephone we are talking about have been in use in America how long ago? Before they say, okay, declassify it, send it to Nigeria. I mean, send it to the world. They have moved ahead now to be doing something else, unknown to us at all.
Let's equally go to Abuja for some perspectives as well. Marpe?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us this morning Secretary of the People's Democratic Party in Imo State, Mr. Ray Emeana. You're welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, as my colleague did chronicle, the southern governors seem to be meeting a lot of time within a short period. I'm wondering what you've made of their meetings so far.
Thank you very much. Actually, my take is that there is a tendency that is emerging in this country now. Only those with discerning minds are able and can be capable to go through the system, isolate the issues, and understand actually what is happening. And what am I saying? The relationship, the marriage in Nigeria is a marriage of the master and the slave. Obviously, the northerners are the masters, the southerners are the slaves. But
that's your reading of it?
That is practically in every aspect, in every facet of Nigerian life. Take the petroleum industry bill, take the oil, take the VAT, take education, cut-off marks in secondary schools and universities. Every aspect of the Nigerian society favors the north. Take the creation of local governments, take the creation of states. Only Kano and Kebbi State and the adjoining state have more local governments in Nigeria than the whole of Southeast. So but however, the good thing is that suddenly Nigerians have started to realize that this master-slave relationship cannot continue, and they have put so much pressure, are beginning to put so much pressure on their leaders that the leaders are beginning to find it more uncomfortable and difficult to exist in their localities. That is what is happening to the southern governors. Most of these southern governors are not speaking because they are convinced, because they mean it. They are speaking because they have realized that there is an existential threat to their leadership in their various states. Because those they are leading, those they are governing, can no longer accept to play the role of slaves in a country called Nigeria. So their constituents are putting a lot of pressure on them. And that is why in the last few months, they have met severally because of the pressures being mounted on them. I am sorry for them because I do like the former minister said, they are not likely to go through this. Very soon, the powers that be, their masters will bring out their criminal charges in FCC and ICPC, show them, and they run away. Some of them are already running away because, like he said, it's a matter of survival. Some of them know that they are already governors, not by the making of their people, but that they were appointed governors. That's why they are sneaking away from this push to get Nigeria to work as one united country.
Does it really, I mean, first and foremost, the fact that you use that very strong analogy, we've had a number of analogies. I mean, we've heard of husband-wife relationship. I mean, and that depicts sometimes the inequalities that exist in a marriage. But this master-slave relationship is rather strong, don't you think? Because a slave is bought, a slave is owned, more or less. A slave has no decisions, and that cannot be the situation of the South.
Well, unfortunately it is. Let me give you an example with the issue of VAT that is currently at play. Some states in the north see alcohol consumption as a sin. So they go about ensuring that alcohol is not consumed, which is okay by their faith and religion. Then in the south, they see it otherwise. They see alcohol as a beverage, something that they can take because it's not against the law to consume alcohol. And the alcohol is charged from 5% to 7.5%. and it is called VAT. And the money is now, when you charge me for consuming alcohol, 7%, if I were going to buy it at X amount, I pay higher. You collect that extra money from me and take it to the person who considers consumption as alcohol as sin. And use it to develop his estate.
You know, that's not exactly how it works.
How does it work?
Let us be very, very, I mean, there's politics.
Can I give you facts?
know
VAT is distributed 20% on the derivation, 50% on the quality of states, and 30%, 35% on population.
Yes, but we also know that VAT on alcohol is a very tiny fraction of the basket, of the entire basket on VAT.
I am using it as an example. Let me give you an example. I won a contract in my state for road construction, and the VAT from that road construction tax is sent to the federal government and shared based on the quality of states. Is that justice? Is that fair? The other state might decide not to award contracts, and he gets part of the money I have spent on awarding contracts as VAT for the development of his state. Does that connote a relationship based on equity, justice, fair play? My daughter, my child, goes to take a national entrance examination, and he scores 120, he will not be given admission. And the same person who scores 15% is given admission. Is that not a master-servant relationship?
So indeed, there are places in our development where people have noticed that, you know, certain things appear to be skewed, but that those things came in as a result. And for instance, we have federal character. We have catchment areas. All of these things were to include the people of those areas, how will I put it now, was a policy for inclusion rather than exclusion.
Yes.
Maybe somehow we have missed our way in terms of how it is practiced, but the policies themselves were not meant to be abusive in that regard.
What is what has federal character? The federal character is practiced when it favors a set of people. What is wrong?
Was federal character itself wrong in terms of when it was created? I mean, was it created on the basis to exclude people? Wasn't it created
federal
to
character
include
was a product of getting certain sections of the country get what was not due to them. In a civilized country like anywhere in the world, what should work is merit. Why is it that when it comes to appointments, federal character is no longer an issue? Is the federal government appointments in the federal government today, top appointments, does it reflect federal character?
So what should, I mean,
when it comes to presidency,
the fact that
there's no federal character.
Sorry, Mr. Emeana,
Yes.
I don't want this to be an argument, but what I'm trying to say is that the very idea of federal character, the very idea of inclusion should not, if it has been abused over the years in terms of how it has been implemented, that's a different kettle of fish. But in terms of the idea itself for inclusion, it's not original to Nigeria, this idea of federal character and affirmative action and getting people to, you know, go to schools and things of the sort. It's not exclusive. We didn't invent the wheel.
Yes.
But, you know, in terms of how it has been practiced, yes, there have been questions in terms of how we have practiced our federation and in terms of how we've implemented it. But, you know, the analogy, and I think that's what I was trying to bring out, the analogy of master-slave, you don't agree that it is too strong a description?
It might sound strong on national television. It might sound strong to certain sections, those who are benefiting. But if you go to the rural communities, if you go to the bars, if you go to small places, that is exactly how they see the union called Nigeria today. Because all the actions, all the tendencies go to suggest that unless I decree, let us take the issue of anti-grazing. A woman goes to plant cassava, yam, and he cannot reap her sweat because a cattle comes in and eats up all the crops. And the people are saying, ranch, you are insisting that ranching or not, that animals must continue to go around to eat up other people's crops. So the animal or the owner of the animal is not the master of the person who, the farmer whose crops are being eaten up. And if the person whose crops are being eaten up is dares to resist, he is arrested by DSS, police, and imprisoned. So, you see, these niceties, this way of putting things so that we'll be seen as one united, until we begin to say things the way they are, see them the way they are, accept that there is complete, that injustice has become part of the national milieu, national psyche, that to be a victim of these projects is no longer going to be discussed. Until we begin to accept that, when we accept it, we do introspection, we look at it and say, okay, let us correct them. But if you continue to say nice things, oh, fairness and equity, unity is not negotiable. These are the things that are fanning the embers of disunity, agitation for separation. I tell you, no group of people genuinely want to separate and go away from this country. But they are saying that the Constitution of Nigeria is a fraud in itself. Look at let us take the fact. The VAT decree was made by the military, whereby they took away sales tax that is usually collected by local governments and made it a federal law. And they went back to say that all decrees made by the military are now acts of the National Assembly. Section 315 of the Nigerian Constitution today converted all military decrees to acts of the National Assembly. So, we didn't make the laws. The National Assembly was not in place at that time. But all the draconian decrees made by the military have become imported into our Constitution as a product of the national acts of the National Assembly. Is that fairness? Is that equity? So until we begin to see, until we sit down and identify and agree that this, what we're operating today as a Constitution of Nigeria, all these skirmishes you see all over the place. Look at the Electoral Act, like the Foreign Minister was saying. How on earth can anybody in this age and time talk about manual transmission of results?
Well, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts. We have to take a break at this moment. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Please stay with us. Well, Mr. Ray Emeana is still with us as the Secretary of the PDP in Imo State, and we're talking about the resolutions of the Southern governors. But only recently, yesterday, we saw a response of some sort by the Northern Elders Forum, saying that they would like that it doesn't matter where this presidency comes or goes to, that they're not going to be bullied, more or less, into supporting, into supporting a Southern president. I don't know what your thoughts were when you saw that particular video, but you have also said that what the Southern governors are asking for is along the lines of fairness. Now, in terms of the fact that this could now eventually go to the North, conversations of this have started from your party, the People's Democratic Party, because they maintain that since Nigeria came back to the Fourth Republic, that the presidency has been held largely by Southerners within your party, and that if it's going to, if we're going to be talking about equity, justice, and fairness, it should be going to the North if the PDP is going to be fielding a candidate come 2023. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, it's unfortunate that at every point in time, people you expect to take a broad view of issues and the Nigerian project will, when it concerns them, become myopic. And just like I mentioned, Section 315 of the Nigerian Constitution converted all decrees made by the military to acts of the National Assembly. Okay, take Nigeria back. You are talking about since this current republic. How many presidents, military presidents came from the North? How many came from the South? Were they not presidents of Nigeria? All the actions and inactions they undertook. Are we not? Are they no longer legitimate? So why would you now say...
But the people had largely no control over that. Well, it wasn't a democracy. It was an autocracy.
Yeah, but there were beneficiaries. The states created, that has created lopsidedness in the in parity in Nigerian political space, was created by the military. The local governments were created by the military. The VAT we are talking about by the military. Universities were opened by the military. Are we going to wish all that away as if they never happened? They did happen, and there are realities that you only take the toll of the number of Nigerian sections that have ruled Nigeria. They not have had it the most. And if in any case, we are talking of a country called Nigeria, why should we be discussing where the presidency should come from? Naturally, it should come from we should have a president of Southeast extraction. But let me tell you the truth, and I have engaged quite a lot of northern elders. They are frustrated. They have suddenly come to realize that by 2023, the 8 years of APC under the present administration has been most unfair and unfortunate for the North. They've lost virtually everything they have gained in the previous administrations. And they have also realized that this current government has been so, has raised the bar in terms of marginalization, in terms of empowering one particular ethnic group against the others. And you know the issue of 97.5%, 97% for those who voted and 5% those who did not vote. You know the issue of a dot in a circle. They don't have come to realize that if they are afraid that if power shifts to the South might also go through the same route of marginalizing the North. And because of that, and they have also realized that they have really not benefited much. They are worse off. Their women can no longer go to farms. In the past, in this country, the crime rate in the South used to be higher than that in the North. But today, it's either parity or more in the North. The schools are no longer happening. The universities are being invaded daily. So they are afraid, and naturally so, that they may be paid back in their own coins. But that shouldn't be the case. When you're talking about merit, you want a Nigerian president that has merit, that is qualified. There is no state in Nigeria today. There's no geopolitical zone in the South. There is no way that you go to the Southeast and you can't find the best. What I expect the Northern elders to say is that Southeast, APC, go to Southeast and get your candidate. PDP, go to Southeast and get your candidate. We weigh the two and choose the best for Nigeria. That is a product of equity. That's a product of federal character. That's a product of zoning. You don't remember federal character when it suits your purpose, and jettison it when it doesn't suit your purpose.
It's instructive that the southern governors haven't specified the specific zone from which, the president should come from. They are just insisting that it comes to the south.
Yeah, but because that is the way things are done in this country. The zoning for presidency in this country between the north and the south. It's when you zone it to either the north and or the south that geopolitical south or north will now meet among themselves if it were possible to say it is zoned to this place or is zoned to the other place. But in the case of Southeast, it's a peculiar situation. The South have tasted presidency. The Southwest have tasted presidency. It's only the Southeast that have neither tasted or come close to it.
The North Central also makes a case.
Yeah, but they have had their turns in the North. We are talking about if you zone it to the South. Of the three federating zones in the South, it's only the Southeast that is here to have
what we're talking about in terms of, if you were to look at the zoning specifically, in terms of regional zones, so to speak, the North Central makes a case that they have not had it.
Yes, when it returns to the North, if we zone to the South, and South says for equity, where Southwest you have had your turn, Southside you have had your turn, now Southeast take your turn. It goes back to the North. The North should also have the courage to say Northwest, Northeast, Northwest, Southside, North Central, not yet. So it's your turn. You see, democracy is a government by the people for the people. All right. But every democracy plays according to peculiarities. And the peculiarity of Nigeria is that unless you begin, because of the multiplicity of ethnic nationalities, unless you begin to appreciate the fact that I am Igbo man, I'm a Nigerian. You're a Hausa man, you're a Nigerian. What is due to me, you give it to me. If you begin to say, make it go round, the next person will be assured that it will soon get his turn and he'll be patient. But if you continue to lord it over him, over and over, and mind you, the youths are no longer taking this kindly anymore. You and me and my age mates, we don't know how to control the youth. I don't know what my son does on matters like this. When the EndSARS was on, Our children were at it. We didn't know. We were opposed to it. But you said that is not your problem. Your generation has failed us. We want to take our destiny into our own hands. There is danger in this country. And I want to use the opportunity to tell every leader, whether you're a northerner, a southerner, or anywhere in this country, you must appreciate the fact that all the inequalities that existed in this country during our generation will not be tolerated by the younger generation.
Let's flip this now to Lagos now and see how our guests will receive that particular advice. Gentlemen.
Oh, yes, thank you very much indeed. In addition to that, Senator, lots of people listening just wondering, they can't just sit back, fold their arms, and just watch things go the way it has always been going. There has to be a solution, a way out. What would you suggest?
Education, more work for people, lift the human beings above poverty line so that he can determine what he wants to do with his life. But a poor person can hardly think the way you are thinking. It is what is there for me that we'll be thinking about. So we need to do a lot of human resource development in Nigeria. We must give people employment. You see, my own, I don't prefer democracy to national development. There are so many countries in the world. There is no democracy there. But there is development.
What do they have?
No, because we spend too much money on democracy. 50% of all our national wealth go on democracy.
So what system do they have, even if it's not about
like China.
Participation of the people?
No, like China, like Saudi Arabia, like North Korea. They don't, but they develop their country without democracy.
We know those are some may describe them as extremes, but even in Saudi Arabia, we see that changes now. They're changing.
When your people are ripe for the change. But our own now is all voting. And after the voting, what comes up?
So let me get this right. Is it the people, Nigerians, that are not ripe for democracy, or the leaders that are being elected are the ones not delivering the dividends of democracy to the people?
The leaders that are being elected suppress the voters.
So it's not the people now, it's the leaders.
It's not the people, but it's their policy that will determine.
So it will be the same thing if you try this other system that you're suggesting.
Yes, but they must concentrate more on the people. Okay, how can you say for somebody to enter university from Zamfara, he can score 2%? What will he write to have 2%? To somebody who has 280? Are they in the same country? Are we not going to develop that person with 2% to a level that he can reason himself? What will you write that will be 2%? Common entrance examination into unity schools.
I know the Kaduna State Governor has also spoken in that line, saying that this should be jettisoned. Let there be, level playing field, as it were. But, people go back in time and say some of these measures were put in place to solve that challenge of education, which you have referenced in the first place, ensure that, people in that region that hitherto had been, put aside when it comes to education, get access to education. So if that goes back to what it was before, don't you think we'll now fall back into even a deeper pit of uneducated citizens?
Look, if it depends on your policy. If your policy is production, you want to produce, you want to have factories, how can factories be folding up and you are happy? Where will people work? If you grew up in Lagos, you know that there are certain areas where we have so many factories, but they are all gone. What happened? Why? Why should they go? Some countries are adding more to their factories. We are losing factories. And it is not something, and it is election that we concentrate on. We remember election. We don't remember production, factory. Where are these factories leaving us? What must we do to retain this factory so our people can have employment?
And speaking about that, since, there's usually so much that goes on behind the scene that people don't see beyond what's on TV, do you think there's a lot of backstory about this VAT war, as some describe it, this back and forth about who should be collecting VAT?
Look, the drafter of the Constitution did not envisage consumption tax. So they forgot to put it in the exclusive legislative list. Item 58 and 59 is clear, capital gains, you know. But item 9 on the concurrent list now said State House of Assembly can legislate on taxes and fees. So that is the confusion. It is the responsibility of the state to legislate, not the national, under the constitution, on consumption tax. So what we are seeing now is just the first stage that has gone to the Court of Appeal. To now say the laws passed by states is against the constitution, then you have to prove that. How would they prove it?
I wonder if the drafters really forgot something that big. I mean, you've seen how big a controversy this has been. So do you think they forgot, or, I mean, this is just how things are meant to be?
If they envisage it, that's why they are saying put it there now. Because it is an embarrassment to just wake up one day that some states will not collect VAT. That's how are they going to survive? So if they knew that a day would come, and this is just the beginning of restructuring, it will happen more, like electricity. How can you say everybody must rely on one transmission line?
But if they manipulate the elections, as you say, so much, what's the guarantee that they'll just let this one fly like that?
No, you have to change the constitution and put it there. And you need 2/3 of the states, which you cannot get, to change the constitution. And no state would leave that power and give it to the federal. No.
Which is why I think, again, I mean, things are just perhaps happening the way they ought to happen.
Yes.
Because these taxes are generated in the states. But, you know, when Chemelin talked about a background to this, I mean, you've been involved in Lagos.
Yes.
I mean, Lagos has been, I think, for as long as I can remember, has always clamored for this to happen. So for how long, really, how far back has this been an issue? And how much pushback did you get in those days when you perhaps brought this up and the rest?
You know, the way the nation is structured, the South has very, very limited opportunity or capacity to upstage the North. And it was deliberate. I've argued with them. They say local government is our own derivation. I say, what do you mean? Okay, you are talking about derivation when you generate tax from the South. But when it comes to distribution of that revenue, we have an advantage because we have more local government than you. So it's a tragedy that when you do consumption in Lagos and it goes as VAT for distribution, people are talking about Kano State. No, Kano 40 local government will get, while Lagos will get 20. That is the truth. So the 35% going to local government, Kano State will get 40. Lagos will get 20. Bayelsa State will get 8.
Is that why Lagos tried to come up with, I mean, these CDAs?
Of course. The entire Southeast, there are no total number of local government. It's not up to 3 states in the North. So look at what they are losing in terms of, I mean, revenue distribution. Revenue collection is easy. But when you now want to distribute it, the local government that are in the North, they are far in excess. So they get their own derivation from there. You will get your derivation 13%. But what they get as their own derivation is massive.
Do you think the federal government, because I know there have been different sides to this argument, will the federal government lose? I mean, you've worked with the federal government. Will the federal government lose if states were to collect their own taxes?
It's not the federal government that is the problem. It's the states. The federal government will lose nothing. But the states that derive a lot of revenue from VAT. Katsina has 37 local government. So whether they work or not, they get 37. Their local government will get 37 portion of the allocation, while Bayelsa will get 8.
I think also this conversation has largely centered for some people around North versus South. And I mean, clearly, I mean, you've seen a lot of conversations these days. You know how dangerous that could be, especially if some people take it on board the wrong way. So how do you propose this North with South conversation happens? Is it at the state government level? Should there be some form of mediation? Is it at the party level such that this does not blow out to be region this versus region that?
It's leadership. No, the presidency can call for a national conference on this issue because it will never go away. And say, okay, we know we are cheating you by creating more local government in our area, by allocating funds through to landmass. Niger State is more than the Southwest in area, one state. So when they want to do revenue allocation, they use landmass. So look at the advantage there. They use local government. Look at the advantage there. They use population. So our own advantage is hard work, education. That is the South. We can survive without the federal government. So the harder we work, the more we give them money.
Just one more thing.
To share.
One more thing before we go. Tell us about, because now you see a lot of conversation around North Central, Middle Belt. That's another factor that we don't seem to take into major consideration. That changes a lot of things when you talk about the North, doesn't it?
The concept of a North Central person is not. It can have differences. But when it comes to picking between the South and the North, they will pick the North. They understand their language more than the Southern language.
Isn't that changing from what we see with Taraba?
You need to do a lot
Benue,
more by educating them for them to change. I have been part of them. Their concept is we are from the North. To now say, no, we are not from the North, we are from the South. It will be very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Well, that will be interesting to see. Very interesting perspective. We do thank you very much indeed, Senator Adeshaye Ogunlewe, former Minister of Works and a member of the APC. Back to you, Makwe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chamberlain. We still have Mr. Emeana here with us, and I'd like to get your closing comment. How do you see things panning out politically ahead of 2023? We see that your party is yet to announce zoning of its members, but your national convention is just around the corner. We've also seen that of the APC as well, even though I doubt very strongly that you can comment on that. But you know, within your own political party, how do you see matters developing, especially when you notice that the person who's heading the zoning committee is from your own zone? That's the governor of Enugu State, Governor Ugwuanyi.
Yes, we have high hopes. There's a lot of optimism in the air. And you know, PDP has a way of sorting out their matters amicably. We are looking towards a national convention where we will elect the best of our best. And we have the zoning committee. Our prayers is that the right thing should be done and the presidency should be zoned to the southeast. How be it? The lopsidedness of, because when you go to the zoning committee, you will also have more people from a certain section of the, more than the others. So in the southeast, we have only 6 states. Other zones have 5 states. Others have 6 or 7. So this will also come to play in taking decisions because it's a democratic process that will emerge. But how be it, whatever happens, what is important is that Nigerians have come to realize that that what has happened to us in the last few years under APC has been a disaster. And it is important, and I want to use the opportunity to call the President of Nigeria to step up and encourage the fact within the remaining time available to him to look back at this constitution. This, for me, is a constitution, because all this issue of VAT that I'm missing is because it was not conceived as a Nigerian constitution. It was done by a few military top heads at that time from a certain section of the country. And we are still reeking from the injustices of the past. So we need to amend the constitution. And we need a leader that will stand forthright, not interested in regions and where he comes from, to amend this paper we have called Nigerian Constitution, which is fueling discontent, which is fueling injustice, because everything that is happening in this country, including the zoning, are products of the injustices foisted on us by the military using the Nigerian Constitution. And it's unfortunate that our leaders from the South, like I said, they are all scared to their, and even where I come from. Even my state governor does not attend South Eastern Governors meeting. You can imagine that. You can imagine that Umahi is no longer attending. Because but the APC brothers from the Southwest and South-South are attending. So it also creates a problem for agitation for the presidency of Southeast. Even our own brothers are scared to their wits for standing up for what is right. I know that PDP will do the right thing, but what is most important for to us in Nigeria today is that we come out of this mess. Look at the level of debt. Can you imagine what will happen to this country? Nigeria currently spends about 90% of our income on servicing debts.
You interpret what you have interpreted as fear. Others might say that it might be in their own political calculations or their own political interest.
Yes, the man in you the man in you dies when you are accused to injustice. The man in you becomes nothing when, because of my own personal interest, because that is what it is all about. Those who put me to power, I don't want to offend them.
No. Political interest. I mean, like Dave Umahi, we do know that he has now since left the PDP. He is now in the fold of the APC. But don't forget that even though the southern governors are meeting together, regardless and irrespective of their parties, it's not been smooth sailing all through. Remember only recently that there was a strong criticism from the governor of Rivers State to the governor of Ebonyi State. He's had to respond, to that criticism. But these are matters that could be as a result of maybe interpersonal relationships.
Yes, but you are really
that are feeling this. Maybe he's. And these are other reasons than just adducing to his non-attendance of the meeting.
Well and good, but some people elected you.
Did they elect them to be attending Southern Governors?
They elected them to do what is right. For instance, the governor of my state, the Southern governor said there should be that every state should pass anti-open grazing law. My governor withdrew and said there was nothing like the governor of Imo State said there was nothing like open grazing. In 2006, under the government of Article Udenwa, Honorable Member Oliver got a bill which was unanimously passed and assented by the governor at that time. Imo State has anti-open grazing law passed by the House of Assembly. And for reasons, inexplicable reasons, like we are saying now, maybe because of personal reasons, the governor of Imo State said there is no such law. And the crops of women, widows, are being eaten up daily by cattle. Who protects the people? Should I continue to talk about myself, my political future?
If the law is already in existence, do we need the governor to implement the law?
The governor is the chief security officer of the state. The law provides that the security agencies shall apprehend those who have violated this law, and that those who have violated this law will pay compensation and fine to the crop owner. It is the chief security officer who will now get the police to enforce the law. So if he doesn't even believe in the law himself, who will implement it? Is it me? I can't. And the police listen to the governor of the day who says if the governors have the will. We are not saying that people should not rear cattle. What we are saying is, as the Igbos will say, let the cat perch, let the egg perch. Let the cattle rear his cattle, earn income, and feed his family. But it should not be at the expense of the cassava or maize person or planter. It shouldn't be at his own instance. He is taking out a life to train his children, to feed his family. And the governor of that particular state, who is the #1 law officer, who is under the Land Use Act, Decry. The governor owns all the land in the state. So it is the governor's responsibility to protect the farmer whose crops are being eaten by cows. And if the governor fails to do that, he is not serving the people. And he will not do that because those who put him there want open grazing to continue.
You keep saying those who put him there. I mean, the Supreme Court was what was the law of the land that ruled on that particular matter. But I think that, you know, it's a fine place to leave it, Mr. Emeana. We'll see how matters eventually pan out within the PDP, and we'll also see how they pan out within the APC. The national working committees or the national conventions of both parties are about to take place very soon, and we'll see just how matters eventually go on politically in the political parties, and of course having an effect on Nigeria as a whole. But we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Mr. Emeana is the Secretary of the People's Democratic Party in Imo State, and he's speaking to us here in our studios in Abuja. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure.